you listen to reason? Will you open your eyes?
RJ in Riverside, how are you?
Oh, that was painful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks so much for waiting.
I'm hurting too.
No worries at all. I'm a huge fan of the show. I got to say, today's a good day. My two favorite co-hosts are on today, Tracie and Matt.
Oh.
Awesome. I've actually called before, probably a month ago, Matt, and unfortunately I got at the end of the show, it was you and Jen on, and I was telling you that I'm a young African-American graduate student, and lately it's been debating a lot of my friends in the African-American community about the problem of religion, and that last caller really just got me off track. I'm sorry. I have this really long point listening to that argument. Really
just breathe.
Well, if it helps.
From University of Arizona, so.
If it helps, the note here said you were talking about African-American churches promoting bad things like homophobia.
Yeah, okay, thank you for... Anyway, are you aware of who Michael Eric Dyson is?
Are you? That sounds familiar, but I'll have to say no, just because I can't be certain that I am.
Okay, well, he's a professor at Georgetown University. He's an African-American male, and kind of like an activist in society. And today he spoke at Howard University in D.C. to a predominantly African-American crowd, and he was basically preaching, if you will, against homophobia in the black church.
Wow.
And although I still think I disagree with him on the God issue, I just kind of wanted to pick your brain about when you see people moving toward the right direction, they're not there yet, meaning they're still light years away from secularism, but they're kind of slowly, gradually realizing that their morality is better than the Stone Age, First Age, ancient literature that they abide by.
Sure.
And so, basically, sorry, I'm kind of nervous too.
It's okay.
You're fine.
We're all friends here.
Okay. But yeah, what I tend to do when I debate my friends is I tend to focus on a lot of the hatred in the Bible, because most people are going to pick and choose what they believe in as far as the Bible goes. They're going to cherry pick verses, what have you. But when I show them how they are worshiping a God who hates homosexuals for no clear reason, just an arbitrary, we hate these people, and you show that they're supporting this, a lot of times they kind of realize, like, yeah, this is wrong. And so, like, I try to focus on those type of issues, those types of debates, the morality issues, not so much the evidence, not so much how the Gospels are all written by anonymous writers and blah, 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 but so much just the morality failures, the moral failures in the Bible. Just kind of wanted to pick your brain on, you think that's a good way of approaching debates with people who, not like your last caller who debates this all the time, but just normal people who are moderate religious people focusing on the moral failures of the book.
I would just say, like, for me personally, I tend to steer people away from getting too deeply into the Bible when they debate, but if you're telling me that the people that you're speaking to, you get good results from that and make them kind of rethink things a little bit, then I would say keep doing what's working for you in your community.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm actually, a fan of the approach of that approach, pointing out, it's only going to get any headway when you're talking about people who actually think the Bible's a good book and are wanting to take it literally, et cetera. But it's interesting because you talked about this individual who's preaching against the church spreading their homophobia. There's a lot of Christians, liberal Christians, moderate Christians, that are going to agree with us on any number of issues. The Reverend Barry Lynn from Americans United is a huge supporter of church-state separation, and I find everywhere I go, when I go to these debates or lectures and things, I constantly run up and meet people who come up after the show to say, well, I disagree with you on the God thing, but you're absolutely right on X, X, Y, and Z, and I think, yeah, it's a good thing. It's certainly an improvement over the options, and any method that you can make use of that is honest, by the way, I'll throw that in there, that actually gets results, I'd say keep going. I mean, I'm a big fan of pointing out the Bible's take on slavery. It is, I think, the clearest and most impossible to refute, issue with the Bible. We've even had, like when Ray Comfort was called into the show, we had to get him. He eventually agreed that he doesn't agree with everything that's in the Bible, and I thought that was a huge statement for him to make.
Can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
When you're talking to people, do you find that they are more shocked by homophobic passages in the Bible than slavery passages when you're talking to African American Christians?
What's interesting about that, Tracy, is that the most common response that I get from people is they'll say, well, they misread the Bible. They'll try to justify it as a misreading, a misinterpretation of the Scripture, or that, that was slavery was acceptable at that particular time.
Wow.
That's kind of where they go. I don't really know how to rationalize that. That's usually where they go. But with all the, we have a lot of states getting, gay marriage happening in our states like California and Maryland. And California is appealing what happened here with Prop 8, and then Maryland, I think, just got legalized in Maryland. So there's a movement going on right now with gay rights, and so because that's contemporary and happening right now, I try to focus on that and say, hey, why do you have a problem with homosexuals getting married? A lot of people I talk to don't have a problem with it, but I'll say, okay, well, if you're a Christian, aren't you aware that your doctrine is clearly against that? And then they'll say, yeah, well, I have to do what God says. And so then I try to pin them in a corner where I'll say, well, think for yourself. Would you have a problem, if you were God, would you have a problem with it? And a lot of times they said no. And I'll say, well, what's wrong with it in general? Why can't two people love each other regardless of their sexual orientation? It should be more of a moral orientation than a sexual orientation. And I just try to pin them on the moral aspects.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. It almost sounds to me, though, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it almost sounds like what you're saying is that if slaves existed today, then they would consider their Bible problematic.
Yeah.
But because we don't have, because we already went through that.
What happened 400 years ago or 200 years ago, however long it was, like they, to them it's in the past.
Yeah, we've already hashed that out and figured out the Bible was wrong about it then, so we don't have to revisit that.
We don't need to go there. It's wrong. Everybody agrees that slavery is wrong. Okay, but then it's like, well, there's still other moral issues. And the last thing I want to say, I want to get to other callers, is one of my best friends' dad is a pastor at a huge church here in Riverside. I mean, a huge church. And I went one time, and although we're good friends, we clearly disagree on religious issues. But one thing I put on my Facebook the other day, and I got a lot of outrage and responses from it, was just the failure in general of black pastors to address a lot of issues that disproportionately affect African Americans, everything from income inequality to the poor educational systems in urban environments. It's a variety of things, and even when it comes to gay marriage, which I think the black church and the Mormon church is probably the two biggest institutions that went against legalizing gay marriage in California, and no one seems to say anything. And it seems, to me, it seems odd, because I'm tired of seeing Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton. They need a break. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need some fresh faces to address some of these issues that face us. I still don't think that I still think religion is ridiculous, but I would at least like to see them deal or confront a lot of things that are affecting their congregation, and they don't seem to be doing that, and I think that's a failure. So,
as soon as you find a way to fix it, boy, I'm on board.
So, I'll let you guys get to more callers, man. I know you have a lot of callers waiting, but I really appreciate the phone call, and keep doing what you guys are doing.
Thanks you for your
RJ.
call.
All right.
Thanks so much.